All right, hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. We are here with another Mr. Pisto Plays MTG Arena Standard Brawl. This time we have a deck tech with the Izzet Commander of Rielle, the Everwise. 3 mana, 0/3 legendary creature human wizard. And she gets +1/+0 for each instant and sorcery in your graveyard. The deck is full of instants and sorceries and way to interact. And whenever you discard one or more cards for the first time each turn, so your turn and your opponent's, draw that many cards. We have a bunch of card draw spells, we have some win conditions, we have a little tiny bit of ramp, a bunch of interaction, and a few cards that are kind of just in there for fun and synergy purposes. We have in the card draw, this isn't really draw, it's more selection, so that's why I'm kind of going to go with it first. We have Anticipate. Look at the top 3 cards of your library, put one of them into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order so you can sift. Omen of the Sea is a 2-mana enchantment that has flash. When it enters the battlefield, scry 2, draw a card, and then you can pay 2 and a blue to sacrifice it to scry 2. We have Cathartic Union. As additional cost to cast this spell, discard 2 cards, draw 3. So if with Rielle out, it's discard 2, draw 3, then draw 2. Thrill of Possibilities we can do on our opponent's turn. It is an instant for 2 mana. You discard a card to draw 2 cards. There again, you get to draw an extra card from this for Rielle. This Improbable Alliance, red and a blue. Whenever you draw your second card each turn, create a 1/1 blue fairy creature token with flying. The reason it's in this pile is because it says 6 mana. Draw a card, then discard a card. Maze Mine Tome. I think this card is slowly creeping into everything, especially in Standard right now. And in Brawl, I think it's great. 2 mana artifact. You can tap it to scry 1, or you can tap it and pay 2 to put a page counter on this card and draw a card. When it has 4 or more page counters on it, exile it. If you do, gain 4 life. So it's life gain, helps you catch up. There's for meaning. There are very few, if any, enchantment cards, so it's mainly in here for sifting through and for the discard ability, actually. I would much rather use it to discard the 2 cards with Rielle, the otherwise out, or you're just drawing 3 and then throwing away 2 cards that you don't need that you might get back later. Jace the Miramage is a 3 mana 4 loyalty planeswalker. He is in this pile because of the 0. Draw a card, reveal it, remove a number of loyalty counters equal to that card's converted mana cost. But you can, when you cast Jace, pay 2 extra colorless mana, and when it enters the battlefield, create a token that's a copy of Jace Miramage, except it's not legendary, and starting loyalty is 1, so they can play with each other. There's a token, you can +2 to scry, and then the 4 loyalty one, you can 0 to draw your card. Then we have the Royal Scions. It's a 3 mana 5 loyalty planeswalker with the text of +1, draw a card, then discard a card. +1, target creature gets +0 or +2/+0 and gains first strike and trample until the end of turn, so get through some damage. -8 if you can get there. Draw 4 cards. When you do, the Royal Scions deals damage to any target equal to the number of cards in your hand. So hopefully we'll have a lot of cards. I haven't really gotten her up and him up to, or them up to the -8, but maybe it'll happen. Reign of Revelation, 4 mana instant, draw 3 cards and discard a card. Teferi Master of Time is a 4 mana 3 loyalty planeswalker. You may activate loyalty abilities of Teferi Master of Time at any player's turn, anytime you could cast an instant. It's really cool that you can actually do this stuff on their turn. +1, draw a card, discard a card. Rielle's out, you get to draw 2, discard 1. -3, you phase out a creature. So basically you make it so that the creature doesn't exist anymore. It does this, you can pretend it's not even there, and then when their turn happens again, they get it back. -10, take 2 extra turns after this one. I've been beaten by this before, but I've never actually done it myself, so we'll see what happens. Ox of Agonis. When it enters the battlefield, discard your hand, then draw 3 cards. It is a 5 mana 4/2. You can escape it by paying 2 red and exiling 8 cards from your graveyard. It enters the battle. It escapes with a 1/1 counter on it. So this is, hopefully you have a mitt full that you're not too worried about, and you have really Everwise out. You can discard your whole hand, get a new mitt, plus get 3 cards. Then Seagate Restoration is a 7 mana sorcery. More often than not, you're probably going to play this as a land, but it says draw cards equal to the number of cards in your hand plus 1. You have no maximum hand size for the rest of the game. No maximum hand size isn't too big of a deal, but the drawing cards equal to your number of your hand size is quite nice. Then, with this drawing, because we're drawing a whole bunch of cards, we have a few win conditions in the deck. We have Ominous Sea. Because you're drawing so many cards, it's very easy to get counters on this thing. So whenever you draw a card, put a foreshadow counter on Ominous Seas. Remove 8 foreshadow counters from Ominous Seas. Create an 8/8 blue Kraken creature token. And if you're in a pinch, you can cycle it for 2. But you're just drawing so many cards, making 8/8s and killing them that way. Thassa's Oracle. If you can draw enough of your deck, you can win with its ability. It's a 2 mana 1/3 Merfolk Wizard. When Thassa's Oracle enters the battlefield, look at the top X cards of your library, where X is your devotion to blue. Put up to 1 of them on top of your library and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. If X is greater than or equal to the number of cards in your library, you win the game. So you're trying to draw, and hopefully someone doesn't make you draw into losing. But yeah, that's his Oracle. Nefarious Tutelage. You're milling your opponent. Hopefully this doesn't come to bite you in the butt. There are commanders in this format that like things in their graveyard. But so it's a 3 mana enchantment. When Teferi's Tutelage enters the battlefield, draw a card, then discard a card. Whenever you draw a card, target opponent mills 2 cards. So with all the card draw in this pile, you can easily get Teferi's Tutelage to work quite well. I love this card, is really cool in this deck. So for 4 mana, Channeled Force. As an additional cost to cast this spell, discard X cards. So if you have Rielle the Everwise and Teferi's Tutelage on the board, you discard your whole hand. Let's say you have 6 cards. You draw 6, and because you discarded 6, you draw another 6. So you draw 12 cards, and that's 24 triggers. Oh no, it's 12 triggers of 2 cards for 24 cards. Which, and quite often, if you've already drawn a few cards with Teferi's Tutelage out, you're probably going to win the game. If you think this is a cool combo or a cool interaction, let me know in the comments below. Hit the like, subscribe button so you can see more of my content and get notified by the little bell as well. Alright, we're going to look at some ramp. There's 3 ramp spells. Solemn Simulacrum. A 4 mana 2/2 when it enters the battlefield. You may search your library for a basic land card, put that card on the battlefield, tap, then shuffle your library. When it dies, you may draw a card. Midnight Clock is another way for you to draw cards and reuse your graveyard. So for 3 mana, you get an artifact that taps stat a blue. You can pay a blue and 2 colorless to put an hour counter on Midnight Clock. At the beginning of each upkeep, so yours and your opponent's, put an hour counter on Midnight Clock. When the 12th hour counter is put on Midnight Clock, shuffle your hand and graveyard into your library and draw 7 cards and exile Midnight Clock. So at that point, hopefully you have a pretty good solid mana base, and yeah, you're good to go. Refill. Try to get it to click over 12 at the end of your opponent's turn so you get a brand new meta cards. Arcane Signet. 2 mana, add 1 mana of any color to your commander's color identity. Then we have interactions. We have Burn, and we have Counter Magic. So we have Shock, 1 red. Shock deals 2 damage to any target. Blitz of the Thunder Raptor. Because you're playing so many draw spells and so many interactive type spells, it's easy to get this card fairly high. It's a 2 mana instant. Blitz of the Thunder Raptor deals damage to target creature or planeswalker equal to the number of instant and sorcery cards in your graveyard. That creature or planeswalker would die this turn, exile it instead. So you're exiling things. Because we don't have that many creatures and we're really relying on drawing and interacting and hopefully either killing them with Ominous Seas or Thassa's Oracle or Teferi's Tutelage, we want to get rid of stuff. So Cinderclasm is an instant that deals 1 damage to each creature, and if you kick it for another red mana, it deals 2 damage to every creature instead. Fire Prophecy is a 2 mana instant. Fire Prophecy deals 3 damage to target creature. You may put a card from your hand on the bottom of your library. If you do, draw a card. So it's helping you select things. Bone Crusher Giant is here because of its Stomp. Instant 2 mana. Damage can't be prevented this turn. Stomp deals 2 damage to any target. Or it is a 3 mana 4/3 that whenever it becomes a target of a spell, no matter whose it is, Bone Crusher Giant deals 2 damage to that spell's controller. We have Soul Seer, another instant, this time for 3 mana, and it deals 5 damage to target creature or planeswalker. That permanent loses indestructible until the end of turn. Storm's Wrath is a 4 mana sorcery that deals 4 damage to each creature and each planeswalker. Chandra of Heart of Fire is 5 mana, 5 loyalty planeswalker. Has 2+1s. The first one is discard your hand and exile the top 3 cards of your library. Till the end of turn, you may play cards exiled this way. So if Rielle's out, you get to refill your hand with all the cards that you discarded, and you get those extra 3 cards that are exiled. The other +1 is it deals 2 damage to any target. It's -9, not used so much in this deck, but search your graveyard and library for any number of red instant and or sorcery cards. Exile them, then shuffle your library. You may cast them this turn. You get 6, I believe. That's what's hidden underneath the flames there at the bottom. You get 6 red mana. Then Shatter Skull Smashing is a 2 and an X sorcery where it deals X damage divided as you choose among up to 2 target creatures and or planeswalkers. If X is 6 or more, Shatter Skull Smashing deals twice X damage divided as you choose among them instead. And it can also be played as a land that comes into play tapped, or you can pay 3 mana to make it come into play untapped. Now, we have the Mystical Dispute. We have counter magic. So Mystical Dispute is a 3 mana instant. This spell costs 2 less to cast if it targets a blue spell. Counter target spell unless its controller pays 3. So hopefully you're playing against the blue mage and you can use this and snipe something with 1 mana. Brazen Borrower is in this side because it interacts by returning target non-land permanent to an opponent's control to its owner's hand as its petty theft instant adventure. Or it is a 3 mana flash flying 3/1 that can only block creatures with flying. You may have Neutralize. It's a 3 mana counter spell, or you can cycle it for 2. Rewind, counter target spell, untap up to 4 lands. Fairly straightforward as an instant. Sublime Epiphany is one of my favorite blue spells in format right now. 6 mana to choose 1 or more counter target spell. Activated or triggered ability. Return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. Create a token that's a copy of target creature you control. Target player draws a card for 6 mana. And it plays well with the Shipwreck Dowser. It's a 5 mana 3/3 Merfolk Wizard with Prowess. When it enters the battlefield, return target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. If you have this in the play, you can counter something, make a copy of it, get your Sublime Epiphany back, and loop it. Well, we'll start at the top. We have Teferi's Ageless Insight is a 4 mana legendary enchantment. You would draw a card except for the first one you draw each turn. Draw, or each of your draw steps, draw 2 cards instead. So with Rielle out, you get to draw a metric boatload of cards. We already talked about Shipwreck Dowser, getting an instant or sorcery from your graveyard. Then we have Ugin, the Spirit Dragon, 8 mana, 7 loyalty planeswalker. You probably lovely Ugin does. +2, it deals 3 damage to any target. -X Sell each permanent with converted mana cost X or less, that's 1 or more colors, or it's -10, you gain 7 life, draw 7 cards, and put up to 7 permanent cards from your hand onto the battlefield. This is more for the removal aspect, the mass removal aspect. And the last card in the deck is the Magic Mirror. I've always wanted to play with this and really couldn't figure out a spot, and I think this one is one of the best places that I could put it. It costs 1 less to cast for each instant or sorcery card in your graveyard. It is a 9 mana legendary artifact. It says you have no maximum hand size, and at the beginning of your upkeep, put a knowledge counter on the Magic Mirror. Then draw a card for each knowledge counter on the Magic Mirror. Alright, so that is spells of the deck. We have some lands. We have Castle Vantress, which pay 2 and 2 colorless, 2 blue, scry 2, and it enters the battlefield tapped unless you control an island, of which we have 7 lovely Bob Ross islands. Mystic Sanctuary enters the battlefield tapped unless you control 3 or more islands. When it enters the battlefield untapped, you may put target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard on top of your library, and it taps for a blue. We have 7 lovely mountains. We have River Glide Pathway and Lava Glide Pathway. We have Swiftwater Cliffs. Temple of Epiphany enters the battlefield tapped. Scry 1. This one enters the battlefield and you gain 1 life. Man Tower gives you a blue or a red. Fabled Passage, you can sacrifice it to search it for a basic land card, put it into the battlefield tapped, and shuffle your library. Then, if you control 4 or more land cards, untap that land. So we have 14 basics to go find. Alright, peoples, thank you so much for watching. That is really the Everwise, the cards that I've chosen to compose this deck. This is Mr. Pisto. A wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, or night, wherever you are in the world. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for the upcoming gameplay of this really cool, interesting, interactive Izzet deck. Alright, take care. Bye for now.